You went to bed at 11 p.m. You woke up at 7. No late night scrolling, no alcohol. You followed every rule the wellness gurus posted online. You gave your body rest, and yet you wake up with a weight on your chest, as if life itself has become a burden. Not because your body is tired, but because something inside you has been quietly suffocating. You lie there staring at the ceiling, wondering why 8 hours of sleep still feel like drowning. This isn't about sleep deprivation. It's about spiritual depletion, the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones, not because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what actually matters to you. Your dreams didn't recharge you. They drained you, replaying the same silent war between who you are and who you pretend to be. What you're experiencing is not rest, it's pause, a temporary disconnection from a system that demands your obedience, a brief intermission before you're pulled back into the performance. This is the trap. You wake up not rested but rehearsed, ready to smile on command, ready to function, ready to perform, but never ready to live. And here's the brutal truth. Modern life has hijacked the meaning of rest. You're not sleeping. You're recovering just enough to endure another day of disconnection, just enough to wear the mask again without it slipping, because somewhere along the line the goal stopped being restoration and became survival. You don't wake up energized, you wake up armored. According to Gallup's 2023 State of the Global Workplace, 76% of American adults report experiencing mental exhaustion at least once a week. Let that sink in. Over 3 out of 4 people walk around with invisible weight pressing down on their spirit, their thoughts, their will. This isn't an individual problem. This is a collective crisis. And yet most of us blame ourselves. We say, I must not be disciplined enough. I should try journaling. Maybe I just need more magnesium. But Harvard Medical School already told us the truth. Chronic fatigue often doesn't come from the body. It comes from values in conflict, from living a life that contradicts your core, from showing up every day in ways that betray who you truly are. That's not tiredness, that's identity erosion. So ask yourself, why are you exhausted, even on the days when you did everything right? Why does your soul feel heavier, even when your schedule is light? Because you've been misdiagnosed. You don't have a time management problem, you have a meaning management problem. The truth is, you're not burning energy on passion, creation, or connection. You're burning it to hold up the mask, the one that smiles in meetings, that posts the right things, that says, I'm fine when you're anything but. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're constantly resisting yourself. Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But what happens when every structure around you rewards conformity over truth? What happens when authenticity is punished and performance is praised? You become split, torn between the person you've been told to be and the person screaming beneath the surface. And that scream, it echoes in your fatigue. It leaks into your mornings. It turns your alarm clock into a trigger. You're not just waking up to a new day. You're waking up to a role you didn't choose, a pace you didn't set, and expectations that were never yours to carry. And the body keeps the score. You feel it in your back, in your breath, in your inability to feel present even when you're still. Because deep down, you were not designed to live like this. Nietzsche saw it clearly over a century ago. He warned that the most dangerous form of suffering isn't physical. It's spiritual stagnation. It's living in a system that rewards compliance and punishes courage. A world where morality is twisted to glorify exhaustion as virtue. Where rest is labeled as laziness. Where slowing down feels like failure. And so we become addicted to motion because stillness would force us to feel the emptiness we've been avoiding. This is not just about sleep. This is about being awake in a world that tells you to stay numb. This is about a society that industrialized your energy, monetized your attention, and pathologized your burnout. And yet, it dares to call it progress. But what if your exhaustion isn't a malfunction? What if it's a message? What if being tired, truly, relentlessly tired, isn't something to medicate, but something to investigate? What if it's not your body that's collapsing, but your soul rejecting the script? You were not born to be optimized. You were not built to exist as a machine of productivity. And if your body is whispering, "I can't keep doing this," it's not because you're broken, it's because you're still human. So the next time you wake up exhausted despite the full night of sleep, don't reach for caffeine. Don't open your to-do list. Ask yourself this instead: who am I performing for? Because until you answer that question, no amount of rest will ever feel like enough. Carl Jung didn't just talk about fatigue, he diagnosed it. He looked at the modern soul and saw not just tiredness, but a deep fracture, a spiritual disintegration, and he said it plainly: you are not truly living, you are merely managing the illusion of yourself. That illusion is exhausting. It takes everything from you to keep it running. You see, most people wake up every day wearing a costume they forgot wasn't skin. They've played the role so long, good worker, perfect partner, obedient citizen, that they've lost all sense of where the act ends and the self begins. Jung identified 3 levels of disconnection that fuel this silent collapse. First, you don't know who you are when you're not pleasing someone else. You've become a mirror, always reflecting back what others want to see. Approval has become oxygen. Without it, you suffocate. Second, you think freedom is the ability to choose your job or your path. But Jung warned, many of us don't actually choose. We're programmed to desire what society needs from us. You believe you're choosing to climb the corporate ladder, to build a brand, to follow your passion. But often, you're just walking a path laid out by the machine, thinking it's your own idea. And third, you call it, "I chose this." But Jung would say, no, that's the collective unconscious choosing through you. You are serving a myth, a narrative inherited from culture, tradition, advertising, and fear. And you serve it well, silently, tirelessly, until the weight of all that unspoken servitude shows up in your body as chronic fatigue. That's why you feel so drained. Not because you're playing a role, but because you've forgotten there's even a self behind the performance. You're exhausted not from being fake, but from not knowing what's real anymore. This isn't just stress. This is soul fragmentation, a slow, quiet tearing of identity. When your spirit is replaced with function, when your value is measured in output, and when your inner life becomes a liability to your outer role. What you're left with is a hollow shell, capable, productive, and utterly depleted. Jung called this the tragedy of the modern man. He loses his shadow, and with it, his soul. Because in a world obsessed with appearing good, valuable, efficient, we've buried all the parts of ourselves that don't fit the script. And it's in that burial that the true fatigue begins. So if you wake up tired even after a full night of sleep, look deeper. Ask not what you need to do. Ask who you're being and whether that person is even real. Because no amount of rest can heal the exhaustion of living as someone you're not. Now enter Nietzsche, the philosopher who made it his mission to expose the games beneath our so-called morals. He didn't say morality was good. He didn't say it was bad either. He said, morality is a weapon. And in a world structured around control, that weapon is used not to uplift the strong, but to domesticate them. Nietzsche warned us, morality is the tool the weak use to make the strong limit themselves. Think about that. From the moment you can walk and speak, you're taught that sacrifice is noble, that self-denial is maturity, that pushing through your exhaustion without complaint is what makes you a good person. But good for who? Let's look at the silent commandments society whispers. If you're tired, it means you care. If you collapse, it means you're dedicated. If you question, it means you're selfish. Sound familiar? That's not virtue, that's programming. And who programmed you? The same institutions that benefit when you comply. The same systems that profit when you stay quiet. That reward you just enough to keep you from leaving, but never enough to actually thrive. You've been taught that burnout is bravery, that self-erasure is loyalty, that exhaustion is proof you're doing it right. And so, without realizing it, you begin to worship depletion. You call it discipline, you call it responsibility, but it's really obedience, masked as pride. Nietzsche didn't tell you to rest. He told you to stop glorifying your exhaustion as a badge of honor. He didn't say weakness was bad. He said the system rebranded it as virtue, so you'd wear your chains proudly. Look around. Who benefits when you keep pushing past your limits? Who gains when you keep saying yes to things that drain you? Who wins when you silence that voice inside that whispers, "This isn't me anymore"? The truth is, your tiredness isn't a glitch in the matrix. It is the matrix. It's a consequence by design, because tired people don't rebel. Tired people don't reflect. Tired people don't ask dangerous questions like, what if my exhaustion isn't a flaw but a protest? That's what Nietzsche wanted you to see. That exhaustion is not a sign of failure. It's the expected result of a society that keeps you numb, compliant, and half alive, so long as you remain productive. But what if you stopped accepting tiredness as normal? What if you saw it as a red flag, not to rest, but to revolt? What if your chronic fatigue is not asking for a nap, but for a total redefinition of the life you're living? You don't owe the world your silence. You don't owe the system your soul. And you are not here to be a sacrificial offering on the altar of efficiency. Nietzsche once wrote, "Become who you are, not who they told you to be, not who the algorithm rewards, but who you are beneath the exhaustion, beneath the roles, beneath the noise." Because that person, the one who's been buried under years of performance and pressure, that person is your only way out. Check your inbox, it's 10 p.m., and there's another quick update email waiting. Your calendar starts at 7 a.m., stacked with back-to-back meetings. Your phone lights up with a productivity quote, "Rise and grind." The modern world doesn't ask you to be on all the time. It demands it. We've normalized a culture of urgency. Hustle is no longer a choice. It's an identity. We're applauded for checking emails at midnight, for taking calls during dinner, for pushing through burnout with a smile. We wear exhaustion like a medal. We mistake collapse for commitment. We treat burnout as a badge of honor, and we call that success. Social media feeds this fire. You scroll past posts that glorify the grind. No pain, no gain. Sleep is for the weak. Grind now, shine later. It sounds like motivation, but it's really seduction. A manipulation disguised as inspiration, because the more exhausted you are, the less you resist. When you're burnt out, you don't rebel. You don't question the meeting that could have been an email. You don't push back on the demands that keep creeping into your evenings, your weekends, your life. You stop thinking about your future. You stop reflecting on who you are. You shrink your entire world down to one goal: survive until Monday. And that's exactly what the system wants. Byung-Chul Han, the Korean-German philosopher, called it perfectly. We are not being exploited. We are exploiting ourselves in the name of freedom. Think about that. You don't need a boss breathing down your neck. You do it to yourself. You monitor your own productivity. You punish yourself for resting. You carry the whip, convinced it's ambition. This isn't a bug in the system. It's the blueprint. You're not failing to thrive in a broken world. You're functioning perfectly in a system designed to drain you. Exhaustion isn't collateral damage. It's the goal. Because tired people are easy to manage. Tired people don't start revolutions. Tired people don't ask dangerous questions. Tired people just keep scrolling, keep working, keep consuming. The system doesn't need to censor your voice. It just needs to keep you too tired to use it. So if you're waking up exhausted, not just in your body but in your spirit, remember, It's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because you were never meant to wake up energized in a machine that runs on your depletion. There's a moment when the tiredness stops feeling like fatigue and starts feeling like betrayal. When you realize your energy, your focus, your soul have been spent serving scripts you never wrote. That's when the real work begins. Step 1. Redefine your values. No more borrowed blueprints. You don't need another productivity hack. You need a new definition of success, not one handed to you by your employer, your parents, or a LinkedIn post, but one that comes from you, from the quiet, sacred space within that still remembers what it feels like to be alive. Ask yourself, what does success actually mean to me? Not what looks good, not what gets applause, what feels like truth. Then go deeper. What are the values I will never negotiate again? Not values imposed on you by culture, tradition, or fear, but values born from self-respect, clarity, and autonomy. Step 2. Protect your vital zone. Every human has a source of inner energy, a vital zone that fuels their aliveness. Maybe it's solitude, or painting, or reading, or taking long walks with no destination. Maybe it's writing music no one hears, laughing with someone who sees the real you, sitting in silence, saying no. Choose one thing each day that makes you feel alive, and do it with zero expectation of praise or validation, and then protect it like sacred ground. No meetings are allowed there, no deadlines, no screens, no performance. Because once you let the system colonize your sacred space, it's only a matter of time before you forget what it was ever for. This isn't about self-care, this is about sovereignty. Step 3. Declare war on every role that no longer serves you. Drop the role of the reasonable one. Drop the role of the always positive one. Drop the role of the resilient team player who never says no. You are not here to perform emotional labor for a machine. Start being the real you. Sharp, honest, sensitive, imperfect, fierce. Start telling the truth. Start saying, this doesn't work for me anymore. Because if you don't choose your identity, someone else will. And they'll choose based on what benefits them, not what heals you. Ask yourself, how much of my life is truly chosen? And how much of it is just inherited reflex, conditioned behavior, survival script? If the second number is bigger than the first, then the problem isn't that you're tired. The problem is that you've let a system live your life for you. So what do you do now? You stop waiting to be saved. You stop waiting to be allowed. You stop outsourcing your aliveness to systems built to suppress it. And you start reclaiming every piece of yourself. One breath, one boundary, one brave decision at a time. You are not here to survive your own life. You are here to live it. And maybe, just maybe, waking up tired was never the problem. Maybe it was the alarm, the one your soul kept ringing day after day, hoping you'd finally hear it. Now that you've heard it, the only question that matters is this: will you go back to sleep, or will you finally wake up?